Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, September 8th, 2011. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. With this week, Steve Wilkes and I finally do some catching up on the mailbag. It's been a while since we've read listener mail, and I hope we make up for it in this episode. And one long-lost piece of sound from Club Night about Chickenuts. If you're new to home brewing or would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. You can follow me on Twitter. My username is Basic Brewing, all one word. Also, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing.james. And we have a Basic Brewing Radio and Basic Brewing Video page on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing. Thanks again to everybody clicking on the Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site. Whenever you think of Amazon, think of us and click on our associate link first. It won't cost you any extra, and you'll be helping us to bring you the show. We greatly appreciate your support. And don't forget, for those friends of ours over in the United Kingdom, there is now an amazon.co.uk link on there too. We also have associate links for Brew Your Own magazine and the American Homebrewers Association on our site too, and you can find our Basic Brewing iPhone and Android apps on their respective stores. And we don't forget the BlackBerry people as well. We have the BlackBerry podcast directory listing too. Before we get into the email extravaganza, I want to read this one that we didn't get time to read for this show. Joe Olivas from Hangtown Association of Zymergy Enthusiasts, or Hayes, of Placerville, California, writes in with this. Joe says, you may have heard in the past from Rick Sellers that our homebrew club holds an annual women-only homebrew competition. Yeah, we've talked about that on the show. It's been a couple of years, I think, though. Joe says, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, the publicity for this event has not been what it was in past years, and we're a bit worried participation may not be what it could. The competition is October 1st, so we're hoping you could give this competition a plug on your show in hopes to get more entrants. I know you've often promoted women brewers, and your show is one that appeals to women more than other brewing podcasts. Oh, well, thank you. You can find it's the Queen of Beer competition, and you can find details about it at queenofbeer.hazeclub.org, or you can just Google Queen of Beer. Queen of Beer, all one word, .hazeclub.org. You'll find all the details there. So, brewers of the female persuasion, get your beers in by September 21st, which is the deadline. Or I think the website said you could. They would accept postmarked entries postmarked on the 19th. Get those into the Queen of Beers competition and make a great showing for the Hayes Club. And we look forward to hearing the winners. And since, the unfortunate circumstances with the publicity, you may have a better chance than usual this year to win something. So send in your entries to the Queen of Beer competition, and good luck. Okay, I wish that all the episodes that we record were this fun and relaxing to record. I mean, it's always fun to talk to experts, but while I'm talking to the experts, I'm having to think of the next question. I'm trying to digest the information at the same time, and it's a little more fun just to kick back and read email, frankly. And since we were recorded this on the Friday before the holiday weekend, work was over. We were done and relaxing, and anyway, just listen to what we did. Steve Wilkes, welcome to the Basic Brewing Radio studio.
Thank you, James. It's always a pleasure to be here on Ad-Lib Friday.
And it's a holiday weekend.
That's right.
So we're relaxing, catching up in email, heading into the holiday weekend. We're sampling home brews from the kegerator.
Yes.
You are sampling a Belgian
amber that you made?
Yeah, I call it Belgian amber. Is it amber colored? I don't know. It's kind of light.
It's a light amber.
I call it amber, Belgian amber because I used it's the same recipe as the zombie Belgian, only I used instead of the dark candy syrup, I used the amber Belgian candy syrup.
Well, it's a delightful beer. It's got a lot of banana notes in it, and very Belgian-y and just right for a summer day.
And I'm sipping on a very hoppy pale ale that I've had in the kegerator for a while, and I've got some more of it down in the basement that I did the other day. So,
yeah,
life is good.
Life is very good.
Here, cheers.
We hired a Foley artist to do that. If you get that joke, you're way more of a geek than you should be.
If you're listening to the show, you're probably way more of a geek. But that's why we love you.
Speak for yourself. Okay.
Now, first of all, I discovered a gem, how do you spell it? G-E-M?
G-E-M.
Gem on my phone the other day from the National Homebrewers Conference in San Diego. We had a little bit of sound left over. This is I'd put up the equipment, and we were just enjoying ourselves at the event. And I walked over to the Rock Hoppers, or actually someone summoned me over to the Rock Hoppers booth. They're from Castle Rock, Colorado. And Dwayne kept saying, Chickenuts! You got to try this Chickenuts! I was like, what? Chickenuts?
Yeah.
Chickenuts. Chickenuts.
Yeah.
And I went over there and was lucky enough to get the very last of the keg.
Okay, make introductions.
I'm Greg Geiger. Steve Marquez.
Dwayne Taylor. And what's the club?
Rock Hoppers Brew Club.
And I apparently have the last of the Chickenuts.
Chickenuts. It's all one word, Chickenuts. That's the last quarter ounce you have right there, probably.
Not even that. But what's in Chickenuts?
It's a very complex imperial stout, Russian imperial stout, probably 30% specialty grains, and from chocolate to roasted barley to black patent to a lot of different dark roasted malts. Ran through or pushed through a randle with cocoa nibs, Ethiopian coffee, vanilla, and chicory. Right.
Well, I have to tell you,
It's 18% alcohol.
18% alcohol.
18%. And we ran it through the Randall because it's a year old, but it's still young for a beer at that high alcohol. And we needed to run it through the Randall because that kind of smoothed it out. It's not so hot now.
It's nice, isn't it? No. It's very nice. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's not...
I have to say that this is in the running for my favorite beer of the evening, and this is the least I've had of any beer of the evening.
That's good to hear.
And the last. So...
Now, what's interesting about the coffee is that from your show, I learned about coffee roasting. And I roasted the Ethiopian wet process in my home roaster to provide for the Randall. And it makes a world of difference.
So this is home-roasted coffee?
Home-roasted coffee. Anyone could do it, and it's worth doing.
So what did you use to roast it in?
Well, I have a home unit commercial roaster. It's a Barrymore, available from Sweet Maria's. It's a very nice unit, but we have several members in our club who are roasting with a popcorn popper.
Which I do.
And it's a great way to do it.
Well, this is a wonderful beer, and, Dwayne, you kept saying, it's Chickenuts. It's Chickenuts, and I kept saying, well, what's in it? It's Chickenuts.
What does that
That
mean?
is not a selling point. You got to work on the name.
Right on.
So this is awesome, you guys, and thank you very much.
Good to hear.
Thank you very much for the experience.
Thank you, James.
Thanks for coming by.
Awesome. That's the Rock Hoppers Brew Club from Castle Rock, Colorado. You guys rock in Castle Rock.
Right on.
So that's does that not sound like the best beer of the event?
It was the best beer of the event. You actually shared just a sip of that with me. So you had the last little bit, and then you gave me a little sip of it. I remember it distinctly. It was very good. I mean, it was way more than very good.
Yeah, it was awesome. And they hooked up another beer through that same Randall with all that good stuff in it. And it was good, but not nearly as good.
It wasn't the chicken nuts.
No.
It's more like the guinea fowl nuts.
So thanks to the guys from Rock Hoppers in Castle Rock, Colorado, for sharing that awesome beer. And I wish that I'd gotten there sooner so I could have had more of that. That was... or maybe it's, sometimes scarcity adds to the value of something. And, maybe the fact that I didn't have, but just a little bit.
Well, it was like candy.
Yeah. So that was fun. It was a lot of fun. And, the club night, it just shows you that's my main reason for going is tasting all those wacky experimental beers that nobody else in the world is doing, and you can only find there or at one of their club meetings or at one of their houses. Mm-hmm. So there you go. I invited you over. Number one, you had my Star Sand spritzer.
Yes, I was holding it ransom for one of these beers.
And Star Sand spritzer is not a drink. Although I guess it could be, but not a very good one.
Yeah. Well, if you mix it with prune juice, it's a hurry up. And boy, are you going to hurry up, too. I'm telling you.
So you brought my spritzer over, and you said you were holding it hostage for a beer from the keg. So we've fulfilled our contractual obligation there. But since I've got you here, I thought that you should help me answer email, because we've had so much content lately that's run so long in the show that I haven't had a chance to answer the email.
All right. Let's get at it.
The first one comes, and these are in no particular order. My name is Bob, and I'm from Cascade, Montana. I've been homebrewing since the early 80s when my WAF. The show's brought to you in French. My WAF brought me a setup from a...
Oh, okay.
Go away before I taunt you a second time. When my wife bought me a setup from a tiny homebrew store in Great Falls, Montana. I just wanted to say how much I enjoy your podcasts and the DVDs. I'm working through the past episodes. I really enjoy your humor and well-rounded approach to life. The Beverly Hillbillies Favisham closing on one of the Amazon purchases really made me laugh. Oh, so see, that's the kind of folks we attract, and that's good.
This guy probably makes hot water soup for dinner.
It serves it in the billiard room.
That's right.
Or by the cement pond. Bob says, I just watched the DVD section on Vorloff on the all-grain DVD. One tip I have for you is I noticed that my wife's plastic watering can is made from food-grade plastic. So I use that for returning the hot wort to the tun. The tiny sprinkles don't disturb the grain bed at all. The can is well over a gallon, so it only takes one running to clear the wort. I did have to buy my own, though.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You don't want the Miracle Grow in your wort. Yeah, so that's an easy thing. That's so I may be adding a food grade plastic watering can to my list of equipment.
I'm going to get one with a daisy face for my springtime beers.
On a Daisy May face.
Yeah.
I went to there was an amusement park called Dog Patch USA, and wasn't Daisy May from Little Abner?
Yes.
And they had college students walking around playing the parts of Daisy May and Little Abner and all that. Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I used to read Little Abner. It was for Daisy May when I was very young.
I'm waiting for the Blondie amusement park. Okay. Jody writes in, and he's asking, this is an interesting question that we've contemplated in the past. He was looking at doing brew in a bag, but he says, I'll need 2 kettles, correct? One for heating the water to go into the mash tun and the other for sparge water. Now, I've got my main brew pot, which is 22 quart. I've also got a 20 quart pot. The 22 quart has only been used to brew beer. The 20 is usually used to make chili and jambalaya. Is it okay to use the pot I've used to cook other things to heat up my sparge water, or will that introduce other flavors from what I've cooked in there previously?
Well, I made a jambalaya pale ale the other day. it was just wonderful.
Accidentally or on purpose?
Well, you never know with me. So would you like me to answer that?
Sure.
I don't think it makes a bit of difference as long as you just wash the darn thing.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Well, here's what I said.
Okay.
I suppose you could do it. I said, I suppose you could do a test to see if your second pot is brew worthy. Boil some water by itself, let it cool, and taste it.
Always the experimenter. Always with the empirical evidence.
Jody says, and he replied, I assume it's a he. I did the test this weekend, and there were some off flavors.
Ah, well, there you go.
They were subtle, but enough that I didn't want to chance it. But it worked out okay because I was able to pick up an aluminum pot for pretty cheap.
Okay.
So anyway, do a test.
Do a test.
See if your water it will taste like jambalaya or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what the pot's made out of.
Yeah,
and how
I
long
was going to
you've used
say, if it's got a lot of scratches in it, like if it's a soft aluminum pot and you've used steel wool on it at some point, it's going to have a bunch of scratches in it, et cetera, et cetera. And how good a washer you are.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if you're pretty good at washing and use really hot water and really rinse well, maybe you don't have a problem, but who knows? So
are you impugning Jody's washing ability?
Yeah, I'm not going to eat at his house because you just never know what's in those pots. Actually, I would love to eat at his house. He's making chili and jambalaya. Are you kidding me?
And beer.
And beer.
Kevin writes in, hello, I'm a first-time brewer, and I was wondering if you can give me any tips on brewing my first batch of beer.
Use water. This is my...
You know what I wrote back?
No.
We do this series of podcasts on home brewing beer, and we also have a series of DVDs that you might enjoy. That's such a broad question, that it's like, well, geez, it's such a. There's so much that you could say. I mean, what are your top 3 tips?
Good sanitation, good sanitation, good sanitation.
Good. Yes.
Those are my 3 top tips.
I would add patience, take notes, and do some research.
Yeah.
Get a good set of DVDs or a good book or a good book. Listen to our podcasts.
Yep.
But don't worry too much about it. Just do it. And if you screw up,
it's just beer.
Yeah. Joel from La Crosse, Wisconsin. Funny story to share. I was on the back end of a keg of Hefeweizen and could have swore it was getting stronger. Well, tonight I finally poured the last pint out of it and immediately went to clean it out. After popping the top, I see that there is a cap of ice about halfway down, maybe about 6 inches thick or so. I didn't think the quality was diminished, but I'm glad it didn't melt before I finished. Time to check the other 2 kegs. So you
mean an iced Hefeweizen?
That's right. Yeah. The subject line was ice beer.
Yeah. I love that story.
So, yeah, if you, Joel made an ice beer there, accidentally, and it still turned out good.
Well, yeah.
This is Chris. Chris is from our neck of the woods. He lives in Fayetteville.
Oh.
He says, hey, guys, love the podcast. Well, thanks, Chris. You guys inspired me to get into all grain. But I digress, he says. I heard your interview with the guys at New Belgium about La Folie. I found it at Macadoodles, and I couldn't resist. Macadoodles is over the state line up in Missouri. Mm-hmm. Although you can still find some bottles of La Folie here and there in Fayetteville, mostly
there.
They're probably, they're probably about 2 years old because they have stopped. I don't think the distributor gets it anymore. He said, I'd never had a sour beer before, so I was anxious to try it. Very interesting, although I can't say I'd buy another one for a couple of reasons. Number 1, the sourness was way in your face and just not quite my style. And number 2, it made me sick.
Ooh.
Chris says, I had really awful stomach cramps for 5 straight days, which began literally 30 minutes after finishing it off. Thanks for the suggestion. I'm glad I tried it, but I don't think I'll be trying another sour anytime soon.
Wow. I've never heard of that strong reaction.
Now, we have a good friend who has kind of a sensitive stomach, and has had a negative reaction to drinking lawfully, but it happened immediately afterwards, and he was okay, right after that. It was kind of a stomach acid kind of a thing, I think. But I don't know. I'm not so sure that I would blame 5 days of stomach cramps on a beer, especially if they started only 30 minutes after you drank it.
Were you eating at the Taquerio on Sunset?
They're very powerfully connected at the Taqueria. No, well, I sympathize. If it's too sour, that's one thing. But I don't know that it would make you that sick for that long.
Well, you wouldn't think. But then again, everybody's system's a little different.
Yeah, I guess.
That's a long time for it to stay in your system.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So anyway, they say that nothing can hurt you that can live in beer. So, but maybe maybe there's because of all the acid in the lawfully.
That's what I'm thinking. It's an acid issue rather than a bacterial or
so an acid
like
trip.
That. Yeah. Yeah.
Not a fun acid trip. 5-day crampish acid trip.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Greg, who he said brewing. He was brewing a Pliny the Elder clone. He said, usually I brew in a bag. However, a grain bill the size of this will not fit in my 10-gallon pot with water. I built a cooler mash tun a year ago and have yet to use it. Wondering if you've ever tried placing your brew bag in the cooler to hold all the water and grain, then simply lifted the bag out at the end of the mash and run the strained wort into your pot. On a side note, I'm working on my wife and kids to get me a 20-gallon pot with a false bottom as a birthday gift, but it's over $300, so it's a pretty good birthday gift. But,
yeah.
So what do you think? Doing, this is a combination of brewing the bag and kind of the older ways of doing things.
I think it would work just fine. I mean, as I think through it, I don't see any downside to that. Sounds great to me. Sounds like an innovative solution to a weekend problem.
Well, unfortunately, he wrote to me on Friday evening and was brewing the next day, which, if you're expecting a fast turnaround from me...
You're not FedEx, huh?
On email. I'm more like Pony Express or the slow boat from China. I wrote back to him. I said, seems like it worked to me. And Greg says, it occurred to me to ask you Friday evening just hours before I was set up to brew, so I went ahead with it, and it worked very well.
There you go.
Honestly, it was so easy, and until I get my hands on a 20-gallon pot with a false bottom, this will likely be my method of brewing big grain bills.
Wow. And
I recommended, in my belated response, to be sure and preheat the chiller or the cooler.
Yeah.
Because, in brewing a bag, when you're mashing in the kettle, you miss your mashing temperature, you can always add heat and bring it up. Can't do that in the cooler mash tun. You got to add boiling water to bring it up. Said preheating the cooler would have helped a lot, as it took all my 170-degree water, 9 gallons heated, to get to 150 degrees. However, it boiled off perfectly, and my ending volume was right at around 5 gallons. I'll be sure to preheat the cooler next time, as I was running out of hot water, and it was a bit of a close call with all that grain in there, too. It nearly ran over. So, wow. Even with the big cooler, it nearly ran over. It's now in the fermenter fridge, bubbling away. He says, love to send you a bottle when it's done.
I think that's a good idea.
Just to be sure.
We'll do a quality control check on that for you.
Well, I've thought about that, and I thought, this winter, if I brew in a bag batch, if I set the kettle out on the cold patio, I'm going to lose my mash temperature pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But if you put it in the cooler... but on the other hand, does that really give you an advantage over, say, batch sparging? Because,
well, in the sense that you don't have to clean. The thing I'm thinking about is instead of having to hose out your cooler, with all the grain and everything, and it's kind of a mess, at least you're not hosing out, grain. I mean,
Right.
So I could see an advantage to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to try it and see because the advantage one of the advantages I see to brew in the bag is that you're not cleaning out the cooler. You're just, washing the bag afterwards.
Right.
It's always a good idea to wash your bag.
Well, I like oil of Olay. It's a creamy texture.
Just don't stay away from the wrinkle cream. But I digress. So I don't know. I'll have to try it to see if it gives any advantage over just simply batch sparging because, in a cooler, with batch sparging, you just, drain out the first runnings and you fill it back up again with your second runnings and drain that out again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interesting twist. And with all these, if any of you guys have any feedback on any of these questions,
send them to James.
Please let us know, and then I'll get back to you 2 weeks from Thursday. Adam in Boston, longtime listener, first emailer. Love the show and wanted to send you an idea that I was mulling over a few weeks ago. I know you did an episode talking about the different brewing applications out there, but the applications mentioned were the big ones like ProMash and Beersmith. How about a show on the small apps out there, like the little apps we use on our iPhone or Android? Not sure if it's too big of an idea, but I thought I'd shoot it along. It's been a while since we've done an app
We
show.
should take a look at that again. Actually, I use an app. I don't.
No, which one do you use?
It's BrewPal.
Yeah, I've got that. I use BrewMath. I think it's called BrewMath. It's the younger brother of Beer Alchemy, I think. Adam says, a mandatory disclaimer. I wrote a small Android app.
So now we get to it.
Yeah, called Brew Timer to help in managing my brew day. Brew Timer. All one word. I'm a software engineer by trade and couldn't find anything to help me, so I wrote it for myself and let others use it if they want to. So that's a good idea. I think if you're using an app, even one that we talked to in the previous show, it's been probably a couple of years or something since Andy and I got together and talked about brewing software. Send us an email on what software you use on your phone or on your computer or whatever.
I have some Abacus software. It's called BrewClick. Yeah, 6 gallons.
I use brewing software, but I have to take off my shoes.
Oh, that's an Arkansas kind. Okay.
Steve says, not you. Another Steve says,
There's more than one?
Steve says, glad to see your podcast on kombucha. I love this stuff. In the podcast, you briefly mentioned bottling in a plastic soda bottle. I think that's not a good idea. The acidity can break down plastic and leach toxins into the tea. It's also worth noting that it can react with metals and leach toxins as well. So prolonged contact with metal, stirring with a spoon is okay, can be harmful. With this in mind, the main fermenting vessel should definitely be glass as well. I usually bottle in glass mineral water bottles with screw tops or an empty commercial kombucha bottle, leave it room temperature for a few days to get bubbly, and then keep it in the fridge after that. My thinking is that these bottles are designed to hold the carbonation and are easy because they have screw caps and refillable with the next batch. So there you are.
Well, there's a good idea.
Now, I've read, because I bought this ceramic crock thing that I was thinking, could be good to hold the kombucha in. But I had read that you want to make sure that if you do something like that you find something with glazing that doesn't have lead in it, because the acidity may leach the lead out of there. But my question was with plastic is, can't you buy like lemon juice in plastic nowadays?
That's what I was...
Like real lemon?
Yeah. And I also, I'm certainly not doubting what he's saying because that does make sense to me. But then I'm thinking even soda pop as an acid, it is acidic.
Right.
And lemon juice for sure. Lime juice, I mean, that's how I buy it, actually. It's cheap that way instead of having to squeeze your own.
Right.
But so that's a good question, and I wonder if there are different kinds of plastic.
Yeah.
That it might make a difference which kind of soda bottle you used or whatever, And
Yeah.
well, anyway, that's a very interesting tip, and
it begs more research.
It definitely does.
So how is your kombucha doing?
It's delightful. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the latest episode of Basic Brewing Video, you need to go see that.
Now, my wife took one look at it. I put it in the fridge. So go on Basic Brewing Facebook page, our fan page, and you'll see a picture of something with a towel over it. That's my kombucha. And my wife took one look at the mother and said, I'm not looking at that anymore. But a week or two went by after that. We just left it in there. She was good-natured about it. And the other day I filtered it through one of those nice coffee filters, those kind of metal, kind, and started a new batch and put the other in a tea pitcher, and it's really good. And I drank 2 or 3 glasses of it yesterday, actually.
So did you wait to? I mean, you put it in the fridge?
Yes.
So you waited until it got to the acidity that you liked, and you?
Yes, I left it out for. Well, I want to say 2 weeks, but I'm not quite sure how long ago we did the show. But that day was the first day of it, of course. Mm-hmm. And then I left it on the countertop at my house for about 2 weeks, I think, maybe 10 days, something like that. And then I just went, I better stick this in the fridge. So there was no science about it. I just went, I'm going to put it in the fridge now. But it was just right. And actually, I tasted it, and it was like, okay, that's right where I want it. And it's very good. It's very good.
So did you get a new mother on the top of it?
Yes.
What's it look like?
It looks like a baby mother. It's
baby mama.
The first Mama Burger from A&W is pretty big, and the new one is a lot thinner. It's thin and white and kind of pretty. I mean, it's kind of. I don't know how to explain.
Much like our wives.
Much like our yes.
Like that, you can see my kombucha. It's here in the studio.
But yours is a lot bigger. Well, of course, you have a lot bigger.
Jug.
Kombucha.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine is up here because I don't see my wife letting that sit on the kitchen counter.
Well, mine was a good sport.
But I told you once she tasted it, I thought she would go for it.
She thought it was delightful, but not the fan of it that I am. But
now there are all sorts of we didn't address it, but there are all sorts of health claims connected with kombucha that if you want to read about, you can go read the bottles in the health food store. But, as far as I know, there hasn't been anything substantiated. So
I even heard a CNN anchor today talk about kombucha.
Oh, yeah?
So he's on this plant-based diet that his doctor, who's the CNN doctor is Sanjay
Gupta.
Yes. And so Sanjay has got this announcer, this anchor, on a plant-based diet for his health. And the guy is saying, I'm doing the kelp, I'm eating all this stuff, I'm even drinking kombucha. I don't even know what kombucha is, and I'm drinking this stuff. So,
well, it's interesting how if you've never heard of something, you never hear it until you hear about it, and then you hear it all the time.
Yep, that's how I was with President Roosevelt. I'd never heard of him until I did. I know.
Greg writes in with the subject line "refractometer fun."
Ooh, well,
I just found a fun second use for my refractometer. Now you'll like this.
Okay.
My wife is a fan of sweet tea, and she has the theory that it gets sweeter the further south you go, even in chains like McDonald's. With a vacation to South Carolina coming up soon, we're taking my refractometer along to test the sweetness of the tea during our trip, logging the results as we go. Don't you love geeky fun?
That is too much. That has got to be. We've got to report the results of that.
Yeah,
definitely.
We definitely need to hear the results.
Yes,
Greg, you have to send us your results.
So I'll send you a database, FileMaker database, to post it on.
Well, I can tell you that you can go to my sister's house and you can find out the top, the saturation point of sugar.
The theoretical limit.
Yeah. When you stir, when you stir your tea and you lift up this, the spoon has crystals growing on it already.
I wonder if there's something like we have international bittering units,
international sugaring units.
Yeah, or sweetening.
Well, bricks. We got bricks.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Which you can measure with a refractometer.
Okay.
But we need sweet tea units. That's a very
I thought you said
it's a very obscure army unit.
That's right.
Well,
I thought you said sweet tea Unix.
It's another very obscure army. All right, Jason from Tyler, Texas. James, I am a longtime listener, but I can keep my silence no longer. I read a paper some time ago about the virtues of the shaking method to aerate. Mm-hmm. I've always been a shaker. I'm lazy, and after my first manual shake of the 5-gallon bucket fermenter I use, I had to find a better way. After several false starts, rigged a hobby horse, balance board, and others, it came to me the best and most effortless way to shake a 5-gallon plastic bucket, basically a paint bucket, was a paint shaker. Mm-hmm. After only 1 minute in the hog, that's my nickname for the rusty old industrial paint shaker I found and recovered. My wort has a frothy head on it that you wouldn't believe, and more importantly, my beer tastes better. I cut my lag time by about a half. With no other changes, I'm attributing it to the improved aeration. It only took me 48 hours to find a usable shaker, and it was free, albeit in need of some minor repair. So he says, I listen to the podcast and read BYO, but I haven't ever seen anybody doing this. I'm assuming at the time that probably everyone was already doing it this way. Admittedly, I don't listen to every episode, so maybe I've missed it. He doesn't listen to every episode. But I missed this tip. If not, spread the word. Shake smarter, not harder. There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It makes sense. Now, be careful naming things hog down in Texas. We got football season coming up.
That's right. Or naming them hog around here, you have to pay royalties.
That's right. To the university.
Yeah.
You'd have to put a little NCAA tag on your paint shaker. Cool tip.
Yeah.
That would be. You got to make sure the stopper's in when you start that thing up. Otherwise, it might be named grounds for divorce instead of hog. Tim writes in with lemon wine. I know it's a mistake to comment on a show that's over a year old, but no, you can write in about any show. But in your rare beer and email show, you had a question about hard lemonade. The recipe I follow goes by the lovely name of Skeeter Pea. The creator has a website dedicated to it. The recipe is just sugar and concentrated lemon juice pitched on a wine yeast cake, although I used 2 packages of dry champagne yeast and it came out fine. The only issues people would have are cidery notes, so you add a lot of yeast nutrient to overcome the acidic environment and keep the yeast happy. 5 gallons of this were huge hits at every party and picnic this summer. Definitely a repeater. Skeeter Pea.
Skeeter Pea. Could serve that with moon pie. What you have in Skeeter Pea and moon pie?
Skeeter Pea. Sounds like a character on Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds that sounds like a fun one.
Yeah,
sounds like a nice summer drink. I wonder, if it's acidic, I wonder if you have to worry about the plastic.
That's a good question. Or
we have to research that some more.
Yeah.
When we have time.
I'm out of beer.
That's a problem. And we're out of email.
Well, then we're out of show.
That's a show.
That's a show.
A little known fact, or I guess an unknown fact, is that at the end of every video episode, we get through and we say, see you next time or happy brewing or whatever, and then we say, that's a show.
So there you go.
That's a show.
Yeah.
Well, we're surrounded by the trappings of my hobbies here. I got the home roasted Honduran coffee beans there that I'm gonna
smell very good.
That I'm gonna give. I'll just give those to you so you can.
That'd be great.
Take them home and have them.
I will. There's a kombucha jug.
Got kombucha there. I have a cup of home malted grain that will be for a future episode.
Yep.
And
green coffee beans.
Green coffee beans.
You know, we're out of content when you're describing the studio to people.
Okay, it's time to go. Well, thanks, Steve. Let's go get a beer.
All right. Thanks, James.
Well, thanks again to Steve. If you have any advice based on what we've said, one way or the other, shoot me a note, and we will pass that along as well. I hope you had a good holiday. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Be sure to check out our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All-Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits. We've got combo deals to save you a few bucks if you want to buy more than one DVD at a time. And you can check out our Basic Brewing shirts in the store, too. There's a fly flying around me. You can see a listing of the fine folks across the country who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com. And if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order them online in our online shop at basicbrewingshop.com, and I'll put them in the mail myself. Thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com and Amazon.co.uk links. We appreciate the support. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are the Shell Country Alphabet, the classic guide to the British countryside, and A Ghostly Good Time, the Family Halloween Handbook. Thanks again, everybody. And remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo the next time you feel like Amazon shopping. We appreciate your support. Man, that is a pesky fly. And don't forget that you can also join the American Homebrewers Association or subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine through the associate links on basicbrewing.com. That's all until next week. Where are my chopsticks? I could just catch that thing in midair. That's all until next week. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer, production help for Basic Brewing Radio, and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.